Texas 12-Pack, counting down the top 12 Texas country songs of the week, as presented by the Texas Regional Radio Report. Uvalde Radio, number 9.
It's Uvalde Radio. It is the Texas 12-Pack. I'm Robert Miguel, counting down the top 12 Texas country songs of the week, as reported by the Texas Regional Radio Report. And next up, the number 9 song, and as luck would have it, the guy that has the number 9 song is on the phone with me right now, Mr. James Lann.
What's going on, Robert? How are you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm good. It's good to talk to you. Now, I have never actually done a true formal interview with you yet, although we spoke very briefly at the Texas Regional Radio Music Awards, and I got to apologize here in front of God and everyone because I didn't really know what a big deal you were back then.
Well, I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Well, now, admittedly, I'm relatively new to the Texas country music scene. I've been in country radio for about 3 years. I did a lot of rock radio up in DFW, and I know you're from around that part.
Yes, sir.
So I've been on a learning curve, but when I met you, we weren't actually playing your song in rotation at the station I was with at the time.
Right.
And since then, I've got caught up, and I know, man, you're at least a good half dozen, if not more, number 1 songs into this whole deal. You got one that's climbing up quickly. So, James, let's go ahead and, like I said, I'm kind of a relatively new fan. Let's go ahead and do the James Lann 101. I know you're from around the Metroplex area. Give me your background.
Well, man, I actually grew up on cattle ranches in Arizona and New Mexico. And my dad still lives in Arizona. He has a 100 square mile cattle ranch, and he still works to this day. We've always been cattle ranchers and that kind of thing. And I moved to Texas when I was 19 years old with a U-Haul trailer and my 72 Chevy pickup.
Oh, nice.
Making music, man. And I've been doing it ever since. And we've played in 20 different countries over the years. We've been, we're hoping that this will be our 8th number 1 song. So yeah, we're just out there working as best we can. And this COVID stuff's got us down a little bit, but we're just trying to keep it moving forward.
Now, for those of us who are brand new to your story, I mean, what was the deciding factor on you pursuing country music?
When I was 13 or 14 years old, my uncle had a country band, and I used to love to sing. And I honestly got to tell you, I couldn't even talk in front of an audience, let alone my class at school.
Mm-hmm.
I played drums. I played the snare, and that way it put me the furthest away from everybody.
Right.
But for some reason, I wanted to stay at my uncle's one weekend, and while we were visiting, and he's like, "Well, I've heard you sing, and the only way you're singing with me is if you sing 3 songs with my band this weekend, because you're going to be with me in the weekend I have to go play." And I said, "No way." And then I thought about it, and I'm like, "Okay, I can do this." So we practiced, and he practiced with me, and I learned 3 songs. I learned The Chair, George Strait, The Pickup Man by Joe Diffie, and Wink by Neil McCoy. I had to sing those 3 songs. And it was frightening, I'll be honest with you. And when I got done, everybody had a good time. And I tell them to this day, I don't know whether to give you a hug or kick you square between the legs for doing that to me. But that's that's where it kind of started. I've always loved music, and it's just been a part of who I am since I can remember.
Well, man, I barely know you, but I know that you're an outgoing guy. So it's surprising to me, and I'm sure it's surprising to many of your fans, to find out that it took a little while to get you out of your shell. Obviously, with the help of family, I think that helps. Is when you have, it's one thing to hear strangers go, "Oh man, you're great, you can do it." But when you've got some encouraging words coming from direct family who have your best interest, at heart, maybe that makes it easier. What was it that made you say, "You know what? Yeah, I'm kind of low key. I'm not really the type A that gets out there, and I'm not the front and center guy." And was it just convincing yourself, or was it really or did you always know, like, hey man, I know I'm good at this. It's just a matter of overcoming the humility of it all?
Oh geez, it took a long time and a lot of practice to get to where I thought I could do it in front of people and be okay with that. It took quite a long time, but once I realized that I enjoyed it no matter what. And not too many people told me I sucked.
Right.
It worked out pretty well.
Now, James, as far as what you do as an artist, and like you said, I mean, COVID's kind of slowed everything down for 2020. But as far as you and your band goes, do you have a core group of guys that you like to call a band? Or are you more of like a guy that hires hired guns and kind of works with those who kind of come and go? What's your philosophy on the live part of it?
You know, I've had it both ways. And right now with the COVID situation, you know, the people that we had a band and everybody's kind of gone and kind of trying to take care of their families, you know, having money come in and stuff. So right now, there are a few guys that are probably not going to be playing anymore just because things have changed for them. But I've done both. I've done the hired gun thing. When I go to Europe, I have a band. When I play in Europe, they back me. They back a lot of the big artists from Nashville. And they're good friends of mine. So whenever I go over there, I have a complete band. I don't have to travel, which makes it a lot easier for traveling. And then when I'm here in the States, which is 99% of the time, we do a lot of. Sometimes it's like you said, the hired gun thing. But moving forward, we're pretty much. I want to have a core group of guys again. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're working on right now, since we have time. We're putting that together. So when we go back out, it's we're not having to worry about that, because that's a lot of. I mean, on the inside, on the artist side, it's a lot of headache when you don't know whether or not you guys are going to show up.
Now, as far as the recording goes, what's your philosophy there? I know that many country artists, especially those in Nashville, really rely heavily on the studio musicians. And then some people like to have a band and record them too. Do you do it the same every time? I mean, you're several albums in at this point. What's your philosophy as far as, getting that band together to record?
I have never cut in the same place twice, which is weird. And that's what I would love to have, is a place where I could, call home and go there and cut. I've cut with some of my own guys before. I've cut with studio musicians. It just depends. A lot of it's logistics, and a lot of it has to do with cost and that kind of thing. Because it does, regardless of what people think, it usually costs more money to put this stuff out than it does when we get back. So
right.
It's a lot of logistics and that kind of thing. So it's depending on what's going on. The next album, I'm hoping that I can do a barrage of some of the guys that are working for me and some studio guys, because having those A-list studio guys in there really help with just bringing it together.
Yeah.
Because live guys, man, they've got to enjoy playing the songs every night. And every studio musician I've ever met, he couldn't tell you what he played yesterday.
Right, yeah.
But he could come up with something really killer that no one's ever heard, and that's the cool part about it. So, yeah. So that's kind of a mishmash of what you're saying.
No, and I've always found that really fascinating how, yeah, you're right. These studio musicians, they can get there, they can lay down this thing in one take, and it's just amazing. But they may or may not necessarily be the kind of guys you can take out on the road, right? So,
oh, yeah. No. My second record, I had Eddie Bears, which is, he's the drummer. He's played on George Strait, Alan Jackson, Reba McEntire. Everybody you heard on the radio, he played drums on my album. And we walked into the studio, and Eddie's sitting there drinking himself a cup of coffee, and he's like, okay, we're ready to do the first song. And we listened to the track, and I told him how I wanted it. And he walks in there, sits down, and the other guys are getting tuned up. And then we run through it one time, literally one time, and just kind of stands up, puts the sticks down, walks back into the engineering room, and sits down and has his coffee, and it was the perfect take. And he did that 11 times that day.
That's amazing.
One take, and it's like, and the other guys, we have to go through it quite a few times, to get everything down. But, that kind of stuff, that's what matters. Like, he nailed it every time. He knew he's been around, and he knew exactly what we wanted. We talked about it. And, man, it was just like watching. I can't explain to you how that day went. It was awesome.
No. If I could make my living walking into a room in an air conditioning, environment and be able to, pay the bills, I would. You'd never see me on a tour bus ever. So there you go.
Exactly.
Okay, well, James, again, we're talking to James Lann, and we're getting ready to play. He's got the number 9 song this week in the Texas charts. Probably, going to number 1 again. 7 number 1s currently, right? 1 climbing.
Yes,
what's the key? I guess you've been doing this long enough. You've had enough success for me to ask this question. What would you say the key is to get to these hits? Is it about the songwriting? Is it about the recording? Is it about the promotion? Is it kind of just a little bit of everything? What's the key so far?
I think it is a little bit of everything. I think, honestly, when I first started, I went to I still do it, and I would have done it this record too. Every single I've ever had, I've almost visited every single radio station in person. And I can't really do it like the radio stations like me to, so they love me for this. But I mean, I'll just show up. I've got to do 80 to 100 stations in about 2 or 3 weeks, and that's a haul.
Yeah.
And a lot of my first radio airplay came from sleeping in parking lots and having the morning crew wake up, walk up and I'm in my truck asleep, ready for them when they got there. So I mean, there's a lot of times that things like that have helped. I think it has to do a lot with the artist. I think you have to be humble and be a good person. I don't think you can, run around and be cocky and expect people to come on board. I've always worked well with my promoters, and they've worked well with me, and we've done a good job together. We've been the same team since day one, and it's worked really well. I believe the artist, comparatively to the promoter, is probably a big deal. The artist has to be there, because I can tell you the same promoters promoting different artists don't have the same results. So it's got to be somebody that can get up and get out there and get it done. And it's honestly, it's all about the music too. I mean, if you have the right song and the right thing, then that's what's going to get you there. Because I don't care if the radio stations know you're not. If you got a great song, it's going to get played. And I know you guys are that way.
I think you're definitely on something there. I mean, a great song is a great song, but if it's coupled with a hardworking, humble go-getter, a hustler, it makes that programmer all that much easier to put it on the radio, because we have a stack full of CDs or MP3s, whatever you want to call it these days. And sometimes you want to play them all, but if there's only a certain amount of room on the playlist, you're going to give it to the guy that smiles and shakes your hand and like you said, is willing to come out to your zip code and deliver it in person or perform it for you. So, and again, from the moment I met you, I knew that you were that guy. So, again, we're talking to James Lann. Let's go ahead and one final question before we get into the song. The latest record, Everydayers. So let's just talk about the newest recording people can get their hands on, and how that's going, and what's your plans for the new music.
Well, man, the record is called Everydayers, like you said, title track. The first single that we released off this record was 2 years before the record came out, Let It Rain, and it was our fifth number one song, and then we released Memory Like You and Watered Down Whiskey, and so this is hopefully our fourth off this record. It's done amazing. We're trying to decide if we're going to pull another single off this record. Right now we're in the process of getting ready to cut a new record. So we're a full tilt on new music and that kind of thing, and trying to get all that accomplished since we've been having all this downtime. We're trying to take advantage of that situation and have new material soon for everybody. So, yeah, it's doing great, and we appreciate you guys playing it for sure.
Well, right on, man. Well, let's go ahead and get into it. Again, the number 9 song this week on the Texas Regional Radio Report. It's Everydayers by James Lann. And, James, why don't you go ahead and give us a quick rundown on lyrically about what the song's about?
Man, it's just about the everydayers, literally. It's about, everybody that gets up and goes to work and does a hard living and has, good people in their life and a love that they can, that takes time, but you got to take care of it. And it's just about the everyday people in this country that do their jobs and move forward. And I wrote this song with a buddy of mine named Matt Kinnon, and also Brian Keith Burns from Trick Ponies. So we had a great time writing this song, and I hope you all enjoy it too.
Well, right on. Here it is, Everydayers, title track to James Lann's latest record. It's on the Texas 12-pack at number 9 on Uvalde Radio. Thank you, James.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Hey, we're the everydayers, full-time players. At dinner, we hold hands and say our prayers. In all kinds of weather, yeah, we stick together. In a world that is full of naysayers, we're the everydayers. We got a blue collar, roll up your sleeves, get her done kind of love, our kind of love. It ain't always perfect, but sure as hell worth it. We hang tough, yeah, no matter what. We're the everydayers, full-time players. At dinner we hold hands and say our prayers. In all makers, the movers, the shakers, the lifers, the dreamers, the true blue believers. We got a blue collar, roll up your sleeves, get her done kind of love. I kind of love. It ain't always perfect, but sure as hell worth it. We hang tough. Yeah, no matter what, we're the everydayers, the full-time players. At dinner we hold hands and say our prayers. In all kinds of weather, yeah, we stick together in a world that is full of naysayers. Hey, we're the everydayers, the full-time players, up with the sun and we say our prayers. In all kinds of